All right, welcome to the Waterboro Planning Board meeting. It's December 20th, 6:30 p.m. We have a quorum. To the people that showed up this evening, please come in and sign in. The paper's over here just inside the door. This evening is not a public hearing. It is specifically just information on what this project is proposed to do. At this time, we're going to go right, no, I guess I kind of skipped that. We're going to go right to new business on the proposal of this campground expansion. Is there someone here who would like to do this presentation? All right, Lee J, would you like to start? Sure. Lee J is our town planner.
Good evening.
Yes, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. So this evening, as the chairman mentioned, it is not a public hearing this evening. Under the conditional use process, the board is not required to hold a public hearing, so it would also be the board's request during the process to determine what they do want a public hearing. So this evening, I would suspect that the way things ought to go would be that you would take a look at the application, which I know you all have done already. You can find the application complete. They have submitted more than the information is required to be submitted for a conditional use application. The applicant will do a presentation on their proposal to you. You can deliberate with them. You have received written material as the conditional use process allows you to receive at this meeting initially. You can do with that as you choose. And then I would assume what you would do would be to table the application and set a date for a public hearing. I'm assuming this project would not go without a public hearing. That would be basically your process for this evening. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant and allow them to walk you through their application.
Thank you.
Hang on, give me a minute. I'll do my best.
Tammy's our backup.
No.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
While Tammy is working on that, if I may, good evening. My name is Jim Fisher. I work with Northeast Civil Solutions. We are surveyors and engineers here in Maine.
Speak up, please.
Certainly.
I don't know if that
Okay.
comes through here, but if you
Okay.
just raise your
I'm
voice.
speaking to the microphone. But okay. So again, Jim Fisher with Northeast Civil Solutions. We're surveyors and engineers. We've been working with Mr. Baza, David, and Ellen regarding the campground for the past several years. Some of you may remember that we were here before, about 2 years ago, introducing the project at its onset. We have now gone through just about everything that can be gone through. As Lee J had mentioned, we provided a packet to you that hopefully is very comprehensive for you to be able to take a look at. It typically entails considerably more than the town requires. The reason we did that is because the Department of Environmental Protection, or the state to which I'll refer, often requires considerably greater detailed information than most towns would require, specifically as far as the environmental impacts are concerned. Suffice it to say, and I'll get that to you in just a moment more specifically, but suffice it to say that the DEP has fully vetted the application and approved everything. We have those approvals. They have been set. So we're all set as far as the state is concerned. Toward that end, I will tell you that the DEP has many different types of regulators that work there. And because of the location of this project, not so much what it is, but where it is relative to the lake, there have been quite a number of people who have taken a look at it from the state's perspective. Some of those include the project managers and the specialists for stormwater, for the shoreline zoning area, for septic systems, etc. That's all been reviewed and has all been fully approved, and you have that information before you. That is typically required. Any state permits that are outstanding are typically required before we actually come to the board or in any community to request final approvals for whatever the project may be, which is why you haven't seen us here for a little while. because we have been working with the DEP extensively for quite a bit of time, and now we've had this now for quite a number of months, and you now have that, and we'll go forward from there. So just a really bit of background, and I would like to say that I'll try to keep my comments in the interest of brevity a little brief, and then certainly open up for any questions or comments that you have, and I'll address those. But before I continue any further, I would like to tell you that Dave and Ellen Baza are here with us this evening, as is one of our engineer consultants, Rick Bacon, who has worked on this project extensively. And the attorney, Mr. Libby, is here also, just in case there are any legal questions as far as statutes are concerned. Thank you. Perfect timing. So what I'd like to do is just go through just a little bit of a background.
Hey, Dave?
Yeah.
Is this on the TV so the viewers can see it as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All set?
Yes.
Okay. So just with a little bit of background, we're pretty much probably all familiar with where the campground is actually located. It's just down the road a little bit, right by the little Ossipee Cove right in here, and then Ossipee Lake, obviously right up in. And in that area. Okay. So the campground per se that we're looking at is this whole section. Forget that. Okay, now we're talking. So this is the existing campground. As you come from the town, we're right over in this area, obviously. You come down Route 5 over the culvert system right here, and you've got the existing campground, which is right in this particular area. What Mr. and Mrs. Baza are proposing to do is to extend the campground into the overall acreage that they own. It's about 30 acres overall, into this configuration that you see right in here. You'll notice that there's a fairly major wetland that's right in the middle of this property. From a topographic standpoint, we have high ground right in this area, a ridge line, and another ridge line on which these sites, proposed sites, are located. This tends to be a little valley that dips down a bit and has the stormwater from the micro watershed of which we are a part. The nice thing about this is that what we're doing over here is actually going to improve the situation from a watershed standpoint. And as engineers, including hydraulic engineers, and we've had soil scientists come in here and take a look at this. Their report is in your packets as well. We've had geotechnical firms take a look at it as far as nitrate plumes for the septic systems, of which we're typically all aware. Everybody has gone through all of these reports. It's all part of your packet, and it has been, again, reviewed by numerous independent reviewers, engineering reviewers, and with the state, the DEP. The nice thing about this is, before this is, right now, in fact, and for all the areas, even beyond, well beyond the campground, as it flows through the wetlands here, and then on the other side of the road over here, and then eventually works its way to a stream that's down over this way that then comes back into Little Ossipee Lake Cove. Right now, a lot of that stormwater picks up total suspended solids, or TSS, which is sediments, basically, that will go into the water. What this is going to do, because there's a huge system right in here, a series of systems that we have created designed to be able to capture that stormwater and treat it for both quality and quantity. Now, I won't get into great details unless you have any comments or questions later on, but suffice it to say, and we had a charrette, a neighborhood meeting with the people in the area along McLucas Road. This was this past late spring, and we addressed their concerns, I believe, to the extent that they left happy, they left the house happy, that we had the charrette right in this house right here. And we were able to explain to them and show, based on the records that you have, that the water quality is actually going to be improved beyond what it is right now. Some people don't like to think that, they don't like to believe it, because any development is going to degrade something further. It would if there were not catchment systems designed, i.e. detention ponds designed to be able to capture the flow of stormwater. This is why we have been over-designing the systems that actually go into this particular area. Much to Dave and Ellen's credit, unlike some developers, maybe subdivision developers or site plan developers, who tend to go into a site and maximize out their potential profit and then leave, and if there's any problems, well, they're gone, that's too bad. Dave and Ellen actually live at this site. They live in the house 6 months out of approximately 6 months out of the year. The remaining 6 months, campground is closed. So these are people who are not only owning and maintaining the property, but they're living on it as well, and they're always available. The point I'm making is that they want to make sure that this runs absolutely smoothly. There could be additional sites in here, but that's starting to pack it in. And they didn't want that. They want a manageable area for campground expansion as well, which is why you see the limited number of sites here, where there could be others that are around this area. So what we have is a proposal for 50 additional campsites, which are those that you see in the dark areas right over here. There's already the road system that comes through the existing campground, comes through this section and comes out here. This is the access, the gated emergency access onto McLucas Road. That's going to stay that way as a gated emergency access. No campers will be using McLucas Road at all. It's also beneficial for us to a certain extent because the main gate, the only gate really, open gate, is right here off of Route 5. So anybody that enters the campground and leaves it is controlled through this particular area. So we don't have anybody just kind of slipping in the back unless it's the fire department or emergency safety vehicles from the town. There'll be like a Knox box there so that the fire department, if they need to have emergency access, they can get it immediately. There was a question by the fire department to make sure that the roadways, that we show templates for turning for the largest vehicles that the fire department has. We have that. We've shown that the road, and we designed that way to begin with. As engineers, we've been around for 26 years, we know what those kind of questions are. We know that fire trucks, if they can't get to a site because they can't get around a corner, that doesn't speak well for obviously the occasion of the time, and it doesn't do us any good either as far as our reputation is concerned. So when we do anything like that, we always design for that, and we've got the templates that actually show that. So there's no issue as far as ability to be able to maneuver, vehicular ability to be able to maneuver. What Dave and Ellen are also going to be doing is they're putting in a pool right here in a small bathhouse. In conjunction with that bathhouse, one of the, and I'll get to this, I might as well bring it up now, we're going to be requesting 2 waivers from the board, not this evening, but I'd like to let you know what they are. Per the regulation, there is for a campground, there's a conditional use, there's a requirement for bathhouse or bathroom facilities to be within 500 feet linear distance of any particular pad site that's out here. And what you've got is from this bathhouse right here, 500 feet literally comes up to about this section right in here. So there are actually 7 of these sites that are a little bit further than 500 feet from the bathhouse. The reason we're asking for a waiver for that, however, is that this is an RV site. There will be no tent camping here. Dave and Ellen have structured the whole business around people that are intending to come to Waterboro, ostensibly for a summer, and stay here for the summer. The point being is that with the RV vehicles, and we've all seen some of them, they range from relatively small and modest to immense. And some of them, almost all of them actually, except for the very small ones, have their own water and showers and we call it internal septic toilets in their own facilities. The point being is that the vast majority of people have currently, because we've got a lot of history here, and will with their own private RVs, do their business, as it were, in their own vehicles. So the bathhouse is not expected to be used. It'll be used constantly, but not by a lot of people that the regulation was assuming that might use it. So toward that end, the best placement for that is right down here, so it can be accessed easily as far as this driveway is concerned. And toward that end, again, there's a few sites that are up here that are not within the 500 feet. That will be an official waiver that we'll be asking for next time. The other waiver, and there's only 2 that we're asking for, the other waiver is the solid waste facility, the trash that's coming out of here. Again, most people that have trash that are cooking in their facility, in their RVs or whatever, typically dispose of their own trash rather than just running it out to a dumpster, but they've got to get rid of it somewhere. Heretofore, this road is already in place in this area, and this road is already in place, and the dumpsters were right down in this area. They still are. One of the requirements is that the dumpsters be within 500 feet. Well, in order to be able to control this so that we don't have invitation for animals and other things that tend to gravitate to dumpsters, Dave and Ellen have been very good about policing this particular area. Anybody that's up in this area anywhere has to come right by here, whether they're entering or leaving. The point being is that this is already set up, and we're going to keep the dumpsters in that particular area. It'll be very easily policed toward that end. Our point being the waiver is going to be from the 500 feet for dumpsters, so that we've got one down here. There's also another one that's right over here as well in the existing campground. Those are the only 2 waivers that we're going to be asking for next time. Yes, ma'am.
Where does that waste end up? Does it go to our dump, or does it go?
It's a private hauler that comes to get it. Honestly, I'm not sure where it goes, because it's commercial. If it does go to their dump, there's a fee associated with that. Otherwise, they would take it to wherever they end up going. And that's a contracted private hauler. He has to have one to be able to do that. We've had traffic engineer be directly involved in this to take a look at all the traffic that's coming off of Route 5 onto and off of Route 5. There's no problems as far as that is concerned. We're fortunate that we've got very adequate sight distances in either way. The speed limit is posted. Typically, as we all know, people are going to drive whatever speeds they want to drive anyway. Fortunately, in this particular case, because we're on the inside of this curve as opposed to the outside, the outside of the curve as opposed to the inside, the sight distances are far exceeding, especially coming up this way, far exceeding what we need as far as traffic volume and speeds are concerned. We also had the soils engineers and the geotechnical engineers take a look at the nitrate plumes, which is the byproduct of the septic systems. And as you may be aware, for this or any other project in any site in any town, effluent is not allowed. Before the dissipation rates of effluent, I'll be brief, where they dissipate to the extent that they basically become non-existent or completely absorbed in the soils. You cannot have concentrated nitrate plumes leave an overall site. That is not allowed unless you get an easement from somebody to do that. In this particular case, we don't need to even come close. The DEP is again to scrutinize this quite effectively because, as we all know too, that Little Ossipee Lake is a watershed most at risk. So we want to take a look at everything to make sure that whatever the nitrate plumes are now and will be are actually stopping short of the property lines. Not only do they stop far short of the property lines, they don't even get reasonably close to it. The nice thing about this little wetlands that's in the middle here is that when you've got nitrate plumes, you want to actually encourage those plumes to get into an area of high moisture or water. That doesn't mean directly into a lake, but water actually dissipates those nitrates considerably faster and negates any issue that they would otherwise cause. Nitrates are a natural fertilizer. Sorry, I didn't mention that. But essentially, that's what we're looking at. The point being here is that here is another case, despite the number of campgrounds that we've got here, where we're actually improving the situation before it even reaches the border, the boundaries of this actual border. And again, all of this has been designed by one of our engineers, scrutinized by another one of our consultant engineers, taken a look at by your planner, and reviewed by other staff here in Waterboro, and then just recently was reviewed extensively by the DEP, and then more recently by yet another third-party reviewing engineer that the town wanted to have, all of which the bosses have certainly agreed to and paid for. The point being that everybody has agreed that the design is exceptionally effective and there is no issue as far as problems or potential problems are concerned. Finally, I'd like to get into a bit of the conversation regarding the docks. This is the gorilla in the closet, we feel. When we were here a couple of years ago, the campground expansion didn't really seem to faze a lot of people too much, whether it was members of the public or certainly members of the board. It's very low impact. People are only here half of the year at best. The taxation rates are relatively high, and this is exactly the type of thing, as one of the selectmen had written in the paper several months ago, that really Waterboro really wants to be able to attract people who are going to come here for a while, spend money here, not really impact our systems. There's no kids in the schools. They'll be coming to anything from Hannaford to the restaurants, et cetera, and spending a lot of money here. This is what we want. This is what most towns would want. So toward that end, I'd just like to say that the campground didn't seem to faze a lot of people, but when we mentioned the docks, suddenly it became a different story. Well, we're still looking at docks. We've got docks now, docks and moorings. What we're proposing is...
Dave?
Thank you. Would you slide to one of the next...
What do you want to do with this one?
Just go to one of the next... There's 4 slides on there. Before, yes, thank you, right there. So this is the dock system that we're looking at. This is where the docks are right now. In fact, right now they're all along this area, this stretch, right in this section. What we're proposing is to get rid of the multitude of docks that are in this particular area and replace them with these systems right here. Right now there are a total of 16 slips, and 5 mooring bolts. So you do the math, you've got 21 boat storage area, temporary overnight storage areas in here. What we're looking at is to have 32 actual slips, no moorings whatsoever, get rid of the moorings completely. As you're probably aware, mooring buoys have boats that are attached to them by a rope or by a chain, and they tend to float with the wind. So they blow around and they go considerably further on the top of the water from where the mooring buoy is located. In this case, that eliminates that issue. So there's no floaters that are just kind of extending out there in any direction with the wind. So there'll be proposed no moorings whatsoever. And 2 of these docks, 2 of the slips on the docks, will actually be dedicated to public use. So if anybody wants to come down to Lakeside Market, for instance, or just have a destination from the other end of the lake, there are 2 that will be solely dedicated not to campers, but to members of the public who are already on the lake. Those members of the public who don't live on the lake, but nevertheless put their boats there. So toward this end, we're looking at a net increase of 11 slips. And I would say that by controlling them in a dock situation like this is considerably better than anybody who's going to be bringing their boat up for the summer, for instance, who's going to be using the lake. If they bring a boat, they're going to use the lake anyway. And it's very likely that they would end up using the public mooring, or the public landing. Toward that end, this will actually decrease substantial traffic at the public landing. It's much more convenient and safe for everybody. The point being is that we're looking only at this, not asking for anything else later on. We'll only be doing these numbers that we're actually asking for, which is what the docks, the systems that you can see there. This is not a marina. There are no fuel facilities. There are no food facilities. There are no trash collection areas. People are specifically keeping their boats there and walking back to their site. The existing area to be able to access this site, and the Bazas do own all this property here, is right over in this area. And we've been working with the DOT as far as restriping. There's already a striped crosswalk there now. We'll be working with them to make sure that we can restripe that. So there's no issue as far as that's concerned. Any signage that the DOT would like to be able to have, we're willing to be able to put there. So toward this end, we just want to make sure that everything is copacetic as far as legalities with the state are concerned. And then we'll present that to you and obviously make that conditional upon the overall approval of this conditional upon at such time as the docks would actually start to go in there, which would be May, ostensibly, that we will have all that criteria from the DOT over which we have no control. The DOT is on its own schedule. But we'll certainly have that as a conditional approval by that time. Yes, sir?
May I ask a question on the left side border? You're noting 3 existing docks. Are they going to remain there, or are they to be removed?
Yes,
it would like,
that's part of the 32 equation.
and typically these are the docks that would be separate from the overall system right here for the members of the public to be able to, the other boating public to be able to come up and moor there. And then this is a small swim area.
Right, so the 3, is that space for 3 boats, 2 boats?
This would be one here, one there, one there, and one there.
So the one on the outboard edge of the left-hand dock, is that outside of your property line?
Yeah.
It's outside of the property line, but it's still on the lake.
So you can put your dock anywhere on the lake you want?
No, the docks actually have to go as an extension.
But the boat that
The
is
boat
attached to the dock?
Yeah, unfortunately, you can.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody can, right now, anybody from anywhere can come up and actually access the lake, put their boat on the lake. They can actually put their own mooring there and put their own dock there if they want to, as long as they've got permission from the landowner to be able to do that. And so this will be limited. What I was making is that this number of docks will then be limited. That's it. The campground, the 30 acres of the campground can't be expanded anymore, or it's not going to be. The point being is that there won't be any greater need for this, and the Bazas have indicated that this is it. What you see is what they're proposing to do. Again, in the interest of brevity, I would be done with the presentation, but if you've got any questions of a technical nature, our engineer is here. I'll hope to be able to answer a lot of this. If you've got anything from a business nature, the Bazas can do that. And if there's any statutory clarifications that you might need, then Mr. Libby is here for that as well. Yes, ma'am.
In order for those boats to get in and out of that first on the right,
Right over here.
yeah, now
Yes.
they're going to have to come through that cove
They would come right into this area right in
into
here.
that very congested cove area.
Well, the congestion that's in that area, a good part of it is from the moorings that are right now out in this area where the boats
But
kind of blow into this
There's
section.
a business, another business over there that also has several docks.
Yep, the person was to come right in through here.
Yeah.
As you can see, we're looking at the distances in excess of 100 feet to be able to come in here. As far as maneuverability is concerned, this is actually a wider area of maneuverability than you would typically find with docks, multiple dock systems. For instance, in Portland, on the marina, on the harbor in Portland, you have dock systems that are the traveled way with commercial vessels that are on either side of a dock system is approximately 20 feet. In this particular case, we've got substantially more than that, plus over 100 feet for maneuverability in this particular area. So yes is the answer to your question. This is where the boats on this side would come in right through here, but the maneuverability is excessive, is more than it would typically be required, but that's where we wanted to put them to move them as far away from this particular section as possible. Yes, ma'am.
As opposed to what, in relation to what Judy just said, there are docks that are coming out into the cove on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Can you point those out?
This section right in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. This is where the I forget the name of the campground.
So
Sunnyside?
they're practically into that 100 feet.
Well, they would be right along the edge right in here.
Whoop, David?
They'd be,
Thank you.
depending on how long the docks are, typically anywhere from 11 to 16 feet, depending on what they've got. The commercial grade docks would be coming right in this section, right similar to these docks, which come out every year. So they're right along in this section right
They
here.
also have swimmers
Okay. And that's fine.
from that area. That's a very small cove.
Okay.
Comment.
Yep, no, I understand, absolutely. Right now, the boats that are on these docks that are down in this area are actually further over here than these docks will be. Now, there's more of them, but it's actually closer, it's existing, well, it's not in the water now, but what's existing in the summertime is actually closer to this direction than these docks would be.
Excuse me. So it sounds like what you're saying is that it's essentially a first come, first serve in terms of whoever gets the docks in first gets to claim the space. So for example, to the extent that another abutter wanted to put docks out that would go further than these, if they had them in first, then you would be sort of stuck. Is that right? I mean, who's minding the store? Is this simply just, I got them in, thank you very much, it's mine? Next year, is that the same thing? Does anyone have a claim year over year on the dock, on the floating dock space?
Not pursuant to the current regulations. It would be up to the town to police that, and right now there aren't any regulations for that.
regulations.
No, I understand. That's my point. But I just want to be
Yes,
clear as to what the process is, so that there's no ownership or control right that's associated with placing these docks this year.
That's correct. There's no
Because
title
next year,
to-
if someone else gets them in sooner, they got it. And essentially, if they wanted to abut up to where you wanted to put your docks, now you've got this whole collection of, what ultimately becomes a dangerously congested, non-usable area.
It's certainly up to the town to be able to decide what it wants to do toward that end. But yes, as of this point in time, most of the docks, we're all familiar with that, most of the docks are individual docks that come off of the properties of people who own the cottages around the camps around the lake. And they don't go out that far. They could. I mean, somebody could put in a 200-foot long dock here if they wanted to. There's nothing that prevents them.
Are the dock spaces, are they leased? When you rent a camp space, are you entitled to one? Do you have to be a camp resident to have the ability to use one?
Yes, there's no transient slips for, other than the two that would be allowed for public usage for any member of the public to come up there on a first come, first served basis. The rest of them are specific to people who are staying at the campground.
Those people would have their own dock, or they would just use whatever dock is open when they come in.
It's typically designated as somebody come in, it's first come, first served. So as far as the campers are concerned, so anybody who does come up and says, okay, I'd like to put my boat, right here. If it's an empty slip, typically that's where.
So they would have that for the summer, or they would, next week when they go out, they'll come back and put it in a different slot?
What if they put those?
And that's-
So you would leave a space,
Yes.
a dock?
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they would be assigned space, so they wouldn't move around, they would have their own.
Understood. Will there be voyage placed outboard here, making it a no-wake zone?
We could certainly do that. In fact, that's probably pretty smart, is to be able to put some type of buoy, like a no-wake buoy.
We have
That would be like out
on
of
the
this,
other side.
out of this area somewhere.
It's very shallow.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
No way
just
to
looking at
200
that,
feet.
while we're on
Jim,
this
excuse me.
conversation, I mean, who knows where this is all gonna go, but while we're on the conversation, Jim, has there been any consideration to flipping that?
Yeah,
So
that's
that you
what's gonna
take
be
the
my question.
inside set of slips and actually move them to the outside, to the bottom
Over
line.
this area?
Yep, right over there.
Just reverse
And
it.
then take the swimming area and drop it to the inside.
Oh, we could probably do that. This is,
It gives visually, it gives you a lot more space in the cove,
yep.
and it moves that boat activity to the outside.
Yeah, that's what I was
I
gonna
don't think that
suggest.
there's not an engineering problem with that.
Right.
The only reason, not the only reason, the predominant reason why this is set up this way is because that's a beach, literally a sand beach.
Understood.
And it's not so much over here, but for swimming in the pond, it's not like there's boulders there, it's just small stones, so that could probably be done pretty easily.
You might wanna take
If that's a concern of the town to just provide a little bit more width in this particular area, then we could certainly take a look at that, sure.
I have a few issues that I'd like to address. The report was very, very comprehensive. How long ago was that done?
What report are you referring to? Okay.
The application.
The applicant, that was all done within the past 18 months. And most of that was this past summer.
There are records of things going back to 2011, 2013.
Mhm.
It's all been updated since then. People have come back in and done the whole thing all over again.
Wasn't it all over again? When we came back here, or when we started this process in, well, actually, I won't bore you with details, but the campground goes back decades and decades. And when we first entered into the project with the previous owner, there was a lot of applicable information at that time that has nothing to do with what's actually going on right now. So as far as everything that we did from an engineering design standpoint for this, for the expanded campground and for the docks we're proposing here, that was all done within the past basically 18 months.
What about all the soil
Same thing.
tests?
Absolutely. We
All
had,
in May of 17?
I don't know about May, but it was all
Well,
very recent.
that's the date that I seem to remember, but 2017.
2017, there may have been some issues that were late last year, but we didn't realize, anything that was done last year was primarily for background. Let's make sure that the soils work, for instance, for the extent of the number of units that we would like there. They did. Okay, that's information that we would use initially, then we go through with the design. Doesn't make sense to put the cart before the horse if something isn't going to perk, for instance, and we're not going to put any sites there. That's the type of information that we would have had preliminarily. Then afterwards, as soon as we knew that everything was going to work, everything meaning soils, traffic, hydrogeography, et cetera, then we set about engineering the actual, that we knew it could work feasibly pursuant to the regulation in the state's code. That's when we actually start the literal design.
What about the traffic control on Route 5? That's a real issue, and it doesn't sound like when the traffic patterns were done that it was that much of an issue, that they talked about automobile traffic, but there were a lot of people crossing that little road almost all day long in the summertime.
Yep.
It's dangerous.
It certainly can be, and we've been working with the DOT for the past year on that. The DOT, all due respect to them, they typically don't like to slow down traffic. That once traffic gets moving, they want to keep it going. So, but there's a safety concern, obviously, because pedestrians typically have preference or precedent over vehicular traffic.
They do.
So what happens, is there's already 2 light systems, one over here and then one down here, that are the flashing lights to allow any oncoming vehicles in either direction to know that there is a potential crosswalk, or not literal crosswalk, potential people crossing at that point. Dave is actually, or Mr. Bazza has actually volunteered to pay for upgrading those systems, even though they're DOT systems. And the DOT, of course, is acquiescence and sure, if you want to pay for it, we'll let you.
That whole area is a dangerous area for accidents, and where Little Ossipee Road comes down to Route 5 and to Old Alfred Road and to Townhouse Road, and then the traffic just comes up. And coming from the north, you cannot see that well. You cannot see coming toward the boat slips.
And hopefully, again, people are going to do whatever they want to do, no matter what signage is out there, or what legal means might be to deter them otherwise. But we do have those flashing signal lights for pedestrian crossings. Those were in place quite a long time ago. Then they stopped working for a while, just because they wore out. The DOT did not replace them. That's why Mr. Bozak has volunteered to actually have his dollars, even though it's within the right-of-way, to replace. Usually that's a state-funded whatever is going there. In this particular case, just to be able to speed that up, because that's a budget item, and it may be 2022 before anything got around to that. I don't know that. But he's willing to do that this year as a condition of approval, for instance.
And they don't feel like we need an extra turning lane.
No, we have the traffic counts in here. The amount of traffic that's going to be coming in and out of here does not generate. There's a series of warrants that the DOT looks at. And,
right.
There are a fair number of fender benders. Fortunately, there haven't, notwithstanding the intersection that's up here, right out here, which tends to be a little problematic, and we're fairly far away from that. There haven't been any significant.
When was that traffic survey done? How recently was that done?
This year.
It was.
Yeah.
I have a question. In Lee J's response here, Lee J, you had called DOT?
I've had email conversation with them, yes.
Okay, because you did record here their response to you?
That's correct.
And they did not have a clear fix to that traffic northbound coming south. So, and it says here that, all right, in addition, our policy requires safe landing zones that meet ADA requirements. I believe the campground owner had contacted a traffic engineer, Bill Bray, to look into this further. But I'm not aware of any developments since, as far as trying to fix that northbound traffic coming south.
Two different things in there. As far as the pads that they're referring to for ADA, what that means basically is that the DOT nowadays always, no matter what the situation is, if there's any crosswalks of any road, whether it's this Route 5 or any other road anywhere over which the DOT has jurisdiction, it has to be made ADA, the crossing has to be made ADA compliant. What that means in this particular case is that there have to be square pads, level pad, concrete pads, asphalt, whatever, on either side off the edge of the right-of-way.
For wheelchairs.
For wheelchairs. And then the crosswalk itself has to be a minimum of that 5 foot wide as well. The point being is that you don't want to have a slope down to a road, immediately cross the road and then drop off again or up a hill or whatever. There have to be pads on either side to be able to do that. That's a state requirement. That certainly is a condition. We're intending to do that anyway, but we can't really do that before we get approvals for the project from the town. So it would be a condition of approval because it won't be done if it doesn't happen. Yes, sir.
Okay. I have sort of 4 related questions. One, and it all has to do with the time of usage that you can expect on this beach and docking area. So I would expect, is there going to be a limitation? For example, how late at night will people be out on the boats? Number 2, I'll just get sort of, will there be time limits? Will there be some kind of policing of that activity out there for excessive noise? How do you plan to deal with partying on a party boat that gets out of hand?
Sure.
Who's accountable for that? Thirdly, because of I'm assuming there will be night usage and there will be some need for activity controls, shall we say, on the usage of the docks at night. How much pedestrian traffic can you expect at night crossing Route 5, and what lighting requirements should there be at night? Because I travel that route every day, and in the evening it is hard to see on the best of days
Sure.
in sunlight, much less in the middle of the night, much less dealing with people who may be intoxicated or may be quite distracted in terms of their group of people coming back from where they've been to where they're going. Yeah, that's essentially the nature of the question. So I mean,
Okay.
if you're going to create an opportunity for a party on a boat, then you're going to have the expected results of that.
Sure.
And you don't want to have someone flattened in the middle of Route 5.
Sure.
And you don't want neighbors being completely abused as a result of the activity that goes on the docks.
Absolutely. Very good comment. As far as that which is controllable, the noise levels, for instance, the drunken boaters and what have you at 10:30 at night or 2 in the morning or whenever it might be. The nice thing about the campground is, as the proprietors, they can boot anybody they want to. So if it comes down to a repeat offender or even a substantial first-time offender, they may very well be gone. That's something that is within our control, or within Dave and Ellen's control. If somebody's going to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and take their boat out, or 4 o'clock in the morning to get a jump on bass fishing, that's pretty much their prerogative. There are no planned hours of access to the docks as far as that's concerned. But if there is anybody particularly unruly, then that we do have control over that.
What about the lighting at the crosswalk, across Route 5? I don't believe there are any overhead lights there or anything. You've got a crosswalk, you might have a flashing yellow light that occasionally works, but at night,
I mean, we'd go on record as saying I'd be willing to add a street light there. We've looked at that. And also we questioned quiet hours, 11 p.m. at the campground throughout the whole campground. So we feel
this
that
is included then in that quiet?
could include the dogs, absolutely.
We don't tend to have a lot of people that go out on their boats at night, maybe fishermen, but we haven't had problems with that as far as we know. And we haven't had any problems with people partying on boats.
Well, again, my point is that you're going to basically be doubling the usage of this area, not only during the day in terms of traffic that's going to be coming down to the beach, the number of boats, but now you're going to have the in and out activity of the boats. You're going to have people on the boats, using their boats for what their intended purpose is. And that's obviously going to start a sort of a progression or an amplification of any of the issues that would be that you've experienced so far.
Right, I was just addressing the night, as far as my experience in the last 10 years, I have not had a lot of people going out at night. Or unruliness.
One of the things, just a moment if I may, one of the things I would like to point out here too is because there won't be any tent sites here, the majority, not all, and certainly we can control it this way, but the majority of people who are going to be using the campground as they are now are retirees. The people that can actually come up for weeks, if not months at a time. Several of them, as many of us who've been through the campground or seen it, the RVs are literally parked there, and some of them haven't been moved in a long time. The point being is that it's not too likely that those of us who know the kind of partiers that go onto the pontoon boats and a few others generally aren't those of us who are retired. There are some notable exceptions, to be sure, but the point being is that from the history that Dave and Ellen have, and then going forward, they control that pretty tightly, and they put a great deal of time, effort, and money into improving the campground now to really cater to the retiree crowd. Again, not only retirees, but that's the majority of the people. So it's easy to be able to say in this forum, but the likelihood of raucous partiers at 2 in the morning, while always possible, is probably not too likely here. The ramifications being, if somebody is partying at their cabin or at their camp somewhere, nobody can really do anything about them. If somebody gets obnoxious here, they can be told to leave, not asked, they can be told to leave. That's not usually what most of the campers want to do. Yes, ma'am.
Well, to their credit, we live relatively near, and we used to be able to hear noise from the campground at night at our house. And since they've taken over, that's stopped. You know, there's nothing after. No, and I don't see the noise from the boating being a problem either. I mean, it hasn't been and you're gonna add more, but you guys are on top of that stuff. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just in other areas, like they have them at Thornton. Because I drive back and forth that road all the time. In the beginning of the year, when you first turn the lights on, I notice them. But as the year goes on, you don't notice them anymore. You get blind to them. In Thornton, where they cross Route 1, they have flashing lights that come on only when someone's in the crosswalk. Is that an exorbitant price or?
It is fairly costly. We've actually designed a couple of those as well, quite a number of them. But beyond that, we can't just do that with impunity. Even the town can't do that.
I know.
It's a state road, and if the state says, no, we don't want it here, then we don't really have much of a choice. If they acquiesce to that and say, yes, you can do it, but not on our dollar, well, we can certainly take a look at that. Ideally, it would be great to have the DOT take a look at not just this site, but any sites similar to this everywhere, and say, sure, let's put up those flashing lights everywhere. Unfortunately, they're not really at that level yet.
Judy?
I was just going to comment on the original campground. It's obvious that people come year after year, and it's pretty settled. But 55 RV sites with people coming and going, RV vehicles are meant to come and go for the most part. You probably won't get the longevity. Part of that is good for the town because people are coming and going, but you also won't have the stability of the quietness, and everything that you're saying is a factor in it now.
Sure, more people are going to equate to more everything. As far as the RV sites are concerned, every one of these sites is designed to not only accommodate an RV of whatever length on one side of the sites, but actually has along the front edge, right off the internal roads, enough spaces for 2 vehicles.
Right.
The point being is that while some people literally, you're right, anytime they want to go somewhere, they get in the RV and go there. Most of the time, and what Dave and Ellen are trying to do, is year after year develop a certain crowd to be able to come in and leave their vehicles here, at least for an extended period, which could be a week. Ostensibly, it would be 3 or 4 months or forever.
And they tow their cars.
And they tow their cars, or somebody else drives the second wheel or whatever, and then they use those the smaller cars to be able to go to, Hannaford or the diner or wherever they might go.
Can I just say something, Jim? The campground is historically seasonal, where these people come in and stay for the whole season. And we've got 80 sites now. 79 of them are people that are coming back year after year. So it's just not a big transient campground.
And I think that's obvious from the type of dwellings that are in there.
Right, and in the new section, we're hoping for that too. Because most people, even though they leave their trailer there, they pretty much only come up on the weekend, except for our snowbirds
A lot
that
of
stay.
business comes, people come for a weekend, they like it so much, they'll stay for the season.
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's what we're hoping for.
Next? David?
And I hate to be beating the dock issue to death.
Not at all.
We'd rather beat it to death because it's going to be beat. It's there. So now we're going to have a concentration of watercraft, powered watercraft. What, certainly there's watercraft all along the lake. It's a protected lake. It's a very sheltered cove. How do you plan to deal with any pollution issues that arise from gas spills, oil spills? I've had a boat for years, so I know I can certainly splash a lot of gasoline into the lake once in a while when I'm not being very careful fueling the boat.
Dave has already, or Mr. and Mrs. Boz have already talked to the people who extensively, actually, who have the boats up here to make them aware of that. Most people are. All it takes is 1 or 2, obviously. It's a very valid point. People will have to basically self-police. In some cases, wherever they get fuel, which is not here, there may be some spillage. Hopefully it's minimal. Hopefully it's non-existent, but it does happen. If there's anything substantial, if somebody is cruising down the lake and they rip open their hole in a rock, that becomes a DEP problem as soon as somebody reports it, obviously. And then the DEP has a full sub-agency that deals with fossil fuel spills. So they would be down here to take care of that. Individually, you know, a bit of gas drips off the edge of a boat, well, it wouldn't be here because nobody's fueling here, but it does happen.
Well, people will be fueling here. They'll
I
be
mean,
carrying,
well, these people, there's no fuel facilities on the docks.
right, there's no fuel facility on Ossipee. They'll be carrying 5-gallon cans out.
Well, wherever they fuel.
Yeah, and taking and transfer the fuel to the boat is where you're going to have the spillage or the overflows or whatever happens. That's the risk. So now you have, instead of 10 boats lined up along the shore where you have that risk, now you've concentrated it and put it in amongst a number of boats and slips. So you're going to concentrate whatever pollution risk you have. Now, it may not be great, and it's certainly self-policing is going to be required, but yeah, if you have a fuel spill, if you have a faulty tank, if you have an accident of some sort, will there be fire control available on the docks? Will there be pollution cleanup? Now, absorbent materials that people can put down and maintain the cleanliness of the lake.
There won't be any booms, if that's what you're referring
No.
to, but booms wouldn't stop.
No, I'm not talking about booms, but at least it's having a canister of absorbent materials where if you spill your gasoline on a boat deck, instead of washing it off, that you absorb it and then dispose of the absorbent materials.
It's a good point. But we can
And
certainly
that's
look into
typical.
that.
That's not uncommon on some of the bay docks, on
Okay.
the coastal docks where they have fueling. And it's just a matter that you've got a pristine, protected lake, and you're going to concentrate what I consider a pollution risk in one area, so all of a sudden you have an increased likelihood of having an accident. The question is, do you plan on how you resolve that early on and make sure people know how to do that, or do you wait for it to happen and say, oh, wow, it's DEP's problem?
No, we'd hopefully be able to nip in the bud any problems before they actually occur. Actually, the DEP does have pamphlets. They've got pamphlets for everything, and it wouldn't hurt actually to be able to have some of those, which they freely
Right.
give out.
But some materials that would help in
Sure.
cleaning up if when people make,
Easy to do,
yeah.
easy to provide, shouldn't be an issue.
We're not opposed to that.
No, and also all our boats have fire extinguishers also, I just wanted to.
It's a requirement.
It's a requirement, all boats have fire extinguishers.
Good comments, thank you.
Any-
May I?
Yes.
We have a letter from our Department of Public Works about the use of McLucas Road
Won't be used.
for construction vehicles. We've changed that.
We wanted to do that because that seemed to be kind of a common sense issue, because it's a very lesser traveled, it's a public road, and it's not traveled very well, or very heavily.
Right.
So it seemed to make a lot more sense to be able to put everything on McLucas Road, construction-wise. And construction would probably be 2 to 3 months of heavy vehicle construction coming in and out
So
of there.
how have you changed it?
Well, the politics was such that it didn't look like McLucas Road was going to be acceptable for the use of that for everybody. So if we have, we'd still prefer to do it, but otherwise we have to go out to Route 5, which is not as good, but if that's what the town wants, then we can do that.
Mr. Chairman, on that particular issue, I think I can chime in with Dave here. Part of the discussion has been that if that were to happen, and it still hasn't been considered how we want to deal with it for a potential condition of approval, but there would probably need to be a significant bond or letter of credit put in place, because the trying to think, the culverts that go underneath McLucas Road could be compromised with the number of construction vehicles that would be going over that during. There's a lot of earth that's going to be moved up in this area. I don't know how much is going to come off or go on site during construction, but we may need to consider some sort of bond or letter of credit in order to ensure that those culverts are not compromised, or if they are, that they're going to be replaced by someone other than the town.
Which would be fine with us. if I may chime in on it and kind of add on to that, from a safety perspective, more than anything else, it makes a lot more sense to be able to have vehicle traffic, such as construction vehicles, go onto a lesser road, in this case, McClucas Road. If that is a political hot potato to the extent that we can't go there, we do have another entrance, which is Route 5. Prefer not to, but if we have to, so be it. And as Mr. Feldman mentioned, between a letter, from a financial capacity statement, letter of credit bond or whatever, obviously, if you're taking advantage of a public road system, one particular use is going to degrade that public road system faster than the public would typically do it, then we have no problems if that degradation happens as a direct result of this kind of a construction, but we have no problem whatsoever in replacing whatever damage is done. And toward that end, I'm glad you brought that up actually, because toward that end, we'd like to go to McClucas Road. Route 5's got a lot of traffic on it already, and toward that end, we'd like to be able to keep the slower moving.
Culverts are Mr. Benton's stock and trade, but there's also paving.
Sure.
I mean, I live on a road that's off, and when the logging trucks go up there, they are heavy, and they make a horrible mess out of the tarmac. And it cracks. So it's not just the culverts, it's probably the construction of the road also.
Actually, it's primarily the construction of the road. The culverts are usually designed to withstand some pretty heavy vehicles, and those logging vehicles are well over 100,000 pounds. Even fully loaded cement trucks aren't that heavy. So the point being is that, yes, if there's any degradation of the road, which is relatively new, then we would take care of that as well. We would camera everything beforehand, and then any damage that's done relative to these vehicles. If there's a week where suddenly there's 15 logging trucks every day going down there, that's not something for which we would want to take responsibility. But that's the kind of thing that we'll take a look at. Again, Dave and Ellen are here. They literally live here 5 to 6 months out of the year. They've owned the campground for quite a number of years. They want to stay here for a while. They want to be members of this community. So toward that end, they're not going to do anything that's going to ridiculously ostracize themselves from the rest of the people here, because they use the road as well. So if we can, and we'll approach that subject when we're here for the vote, we'd like to be able to use it that way, but we're prepared not to if it comes to that.
Anybody else?
I guess you addressed nitrates, but you didn't address phosphates, and there was quite a to-do in that DEP report about
You're good. Most people don't know
That's why
we
she's-
take
And to
phosphates,
me,
and most people say, what?
from everything that I've read, phosphates are as dangerous, if not more dangerous, in causing algal blooms and oxygen deprivation in a
Yes.
water body. So I know you paid money at
Yeah.
like $22,000 to the state, and
Did you just come up with that, or did you know that that's
no,
the
it's
actual
in that
amount of money?
report.
Oh, okay,
I'm
good.
sorry.
It's in the permit.
But does the state of Maine just pocket that money? And it said it's to be used in the Ossipee Lake watershed, but how do you go about knowing what it's being done? And
Sure.
does the town apply for projects and it comes out of that 22,000, or does that just go somewhere in
No,
the
good
general
questions.
funds?
It's basically in an escrow fund. I understand it. It's basically in an escrow fund. It's most of that money, if not all of it, and probably more money from other places, are probably devoted toward Waterboro or devoted to Little Ossipee Lake, because it's already classified and has been for decades as a watershed coastal risk, which means the preponderance of monies for any phosphates that go into the waters are probably concentrated here. China Lake up by Augusta is one China, and so there's about a dozen of them throughout the state. So you probably get, or this lake probably garners more of those funds than anything else. But having said that, that is up to the DEP. They are going to take those monies and they are going to apply them for control purposes on whatever project they believe is most intense at the time that they need, whatever the controls might be. So it might not be here. It could be somewhere in northern Maine, or you could have a lot of monies from elsewhere on similar projects that suddenly funnel into this area of southern Maine. That's again up to the DEP. As far as phosphates are concerned, nitrates are subgrade. They are from effluent, basically. That's the natural fertilizer as far as that's concerned. That goes through, that's our leaching systems, et cetera, goes through the applicable soils, dissipates to those parts per billion, and then you're good. Phosphates are a different story. What happens there is you can't send those into the ground because they won't go anywhere. Or it takes a slow time to go there, and they are not organic to the point where they are going to dissipate like nitrates will. So what happens with phosphates is you want to actually put them in water to dissipate those as quickly as possible to negate their influence. So what happens there is you've got detention ponds and open water detention ponds. So that, and phosphates are also an organic compound that comes off of the organic layer of the soil. So when that soil is disturbed, whether it's through erosion or construction or whatever, some of those phosphates are going to get released. Most of them stay where they are, in the soils that are being excavated, but some of them don't. They erode away with the rainwater, etc.
Don't they come from the rainwater also?
Exactly. As far as the dust is concerned, not so much in this area, but yes, anytime you've got substantial dust that are going up into the clouds, it attaches to the moisture in the clouds, and when it comes back down, you get these great raindrops that are full of dust. Not full, but you get the idea. So what happens is they hit the ground, and they're going to flow wherever the water flows. So what we've done in this case is design 3 separate ponds, not just for stormwater, the existing stormwater quantity and quality, but also for any of the runoff that comes for phosphates. Again, you're one of the few people that actually either reads enough about it or brings it up, but that's a very good question. What happens is that rainwater carries those phosphates down into the ponds, and it allows them to dissipate, to dissolve essentially, in that standing water in those ponds. And then that ends up as a total suspended solid, ends up going through that water eventually into the bottom of those ponds. Once every, however long it takes, can be anywhere from 5 years to 15 years, those ponds need to be typically maintained to make sure that any stuff that ends up going into them, from tree branches and leaves to a buildup of material on the bottom, actually gets excavated and cleaned. That's part of the DEP process as well. So it's not an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, saying, there's my pond, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Anybody who has one still has to maintain that pond, unless somebody else is going to do it for them, but in this case, that's not the case.
Okay, first, Glenn?
Yeah, a couple of things. If the planning board decides to allow Lucas Road to be used for construction, then I think on that same breath, the Director of Public Works should have the authority to assign when and where flaggers or traffic control is needed to control truck traffic on that route during construction. And secondly, you talked a lot about the nitrate plumes stopping short of the boundary of the property line. Have you actually done modeling to determine that?
Yes.
Have you submitted it as evidence to the planning board?
CV of Mahar has that, yes. We've got it as part of the packet.
It is part of the packet?
Yes, it's part of the packet. Part of the packet.
Right on here.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah, I just had a question. Jim, you mentioned that, you know, the ponds, you're looking at maintenance every 5 to 15 years, but if you're doing bioretention cells, with the medium that you're putting in there, wouldn't that need to be a shorter period of time?
Yes.
A 2 to 5 year period, maybe, where the media has to be taken out, the new media brought in?
It doesn't necessarily have to be taken out. It depends on what the factors are that are going to cause it to degrade. But that's a distinct possibility, absolutely. And when I mentioned that time frame, that's just an arbitrary time frame, depending on what goes into the pond. Some ponds never have to be maintained because, well, it should always be maintained, but it could be such a long period of time that all of this would be long gone. Other ponds, depending on what they're taking and the volume or the capacity of it, could be every year. We don't really know that. And the first year will probably be more significant, or after the first year, because of the construction involved. Otherwise, after that, there's very little that's likely to go in there. So we're probably looking at many multiple years before anything would have to be maintained for that.
So who's accountable for monitoring the maintenance of these ponds? And is that
That's a DEP requirement.
It's a deed requirement.
It's a DEP requirement.
A DEP requirement. So if title were to change hands at some point, whoever the successors would be bound by the same requirements?
That's correct.
As things have are evolving on the project, I have been thinking about various things, and it's not new. It's been done before on other development projects. Would probably be to require them to monitor those and report their inspections or logs of whatever replacement they have done to the town on a yearly or
As part of a conditional approval?
Yes, so that the town would at least have the ability to look at those logs and have them on file with the project file, so that going forward there'll be a history here in Town Hall.
And that's not unusual. That for any project of even lesser caliber than this one, that's a pretty typical log that has to be kept.
Does the DEP check it at all, or they just say you have to do it?
No, well, certainly the latter, but the former, they're supposed to. They do have enforcement officers that are dedicated to certain regions, and that's a good part of what they do, is to take a look at, if the log is a month late, they probably wouldn't have an issue. If it's 2 years and it hasn't been done, they're going to have a big issue. And the DEP, as you're well, any state agency that was involved in any type of permitting for any type of activity has the ability to be able to rescind that or amend that activity. So it behooves everybody to do what it's supposed to be doing in conjunction with the original permits. And if they don't, they can be shut down.
Anybody? Glenn?
I'd like to know the exact location of the modeling analysis in this packet.
Lee? Jay?
I may not have it in mind, but, or it's not in the packet I have in any case. We talked a lot about soil, but not groundwater modeling.
Really want me to go through this whole packet?
Well, I'm hoping one of the engineers knows exactly what the page is.
I don't know the exact page.
I don't know the exact age, I don't have a full set in front of me. Sure.
We can certainly take a look at that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be tonight, but if it's not in the packet, then I would want that submitted.
Here it is, Glenn, right with the HHE 200 form that you said was missing. There you go.
He's got it.
The plumes have been modeled. Yes, I've got that.
In with the HHE 200.
Yes.
The monitoring for the plumes, the fumes.
I think that's an HHE 200 right there. There you go.
But these guys don't model groundwater.
It's in there.
It's in there.
Yes. Should have stepped up.
I
All right.
didn't realize that was what I was looking
So-
for. I've already got it and it tapped.
All right, moving on. Anybody else? Questions, department heads? Neil?
No, thank you.
All right.
I'm done.
We'll wait for these two to clear their desk.
It's not.
Gentlemen, ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We really appreciate your time, and we'll expect to see you again here coming up at the meeting in mid-January. Thank you very much. Have a great holidays.
That's not.
All right, at this time, board can, well, I guess we'll wait for Judy to come back. We'll get, the board's gonna make a decision on whether they consider this application complete. If it's deemed completed, it will be moved forward, we'll make a decision on whether or not to have a public hearing. I'm gonna wait, let's wait for Judy to have a seat. Okay.
Would you please repeat what you said?
At this time, the board needs to decide if we deem this application complete.
I think we need more time.
Well, the decision is that all the ducks in a row paperwork-wise? It's not about, tabling it or moving it over. So it's about the application itself and everything that's in
And
it.
it is complete.
Again, I think I've talked about this before, but it's always good, I reiterate with every planning board I work with. The difference between have they submitted the information versus is it information that you agree with or need more information of are two different things. And have they
Okay.
submitted the information? Yes.
It's
From
complete.
what the conditional use permit requirement requires, they have submitted a complete application. does it satisfy your needs and desires? That may be another debate for another day.
Okay. All right, so then I make a motion that we accept it as complete.
Okay, is there a second?
Can I ask?
Oh, wait,
Well,
sure.
Second, and then we
Okay.
have a
Oh,
discussion.
All right, so,
Okay.
did you catch up, Tim?
Yeah, I got it.
First and
Thank
second
you.
with David, and any discussion, Judy?
In the zoning ordinance, does it not say that we have only 30 days between the time that it's considered complete and we have to make a decision one way or the other?
I'm not going to stand here and say that's gospel. I know many of our ordinances do say that. However, you can certainly ask the applicant if he's willing to allow that clock to tick while we're dealing with this. I would hope or trust that they would agree, since there's the application is moving forward, but there would need to be an amenable agreement between you and the applicant on that.
Again, what's on the table right now is all this paperwork in order? That's the question. Is this application complete only?
But Judy's point is if we find it complete, then we have only 30 days? Or am I,
No, here's the thing. We can, you'd have to state what about this application is not complete. So it either meets all the criteria per Waterboro ordinances,
okay,
or it does not.
And if you're setting a date for a public hearing, then that still hasn't gotten the clock really ticking per se. Just because you find the application complete, there's not a due diligence, but there's the fact that you're continuing the process. It's not like you're putting it on the table and just letting it sit there for months without any activity.
no.
Right. So in finding it complete, you're then going to set the date for the public hearing. I think the next available meeting would be the 17th of January. It's within the 30-day period for the public hearing.
We're still under discussion, so board members.
That only gives you a few days beyond that to,
Well, I guess what I would do then is turn to the applicant or the applicant's representatives and see if they're fine with the 30-day, going beyond the 30-day period that you're concerned about.
I mean, I would think we would ask that we extend that to the first meeting of February, because that would be the next scheduled meeting of the planning board after the public hearing, which would give us a couple of weeks to digest and prepare for that meeting.
Tim?
I would just recommend that you set a snow date for that public hearing. Make it count on the record, because it's a tough time of year.
Tammy, so we don't have a meeting on the 31st, so it'll be, we got 17th, and then we got February.
Then it'll be the first Wednesday in February. You
All
want
right.
to meet on the 1st and the 3rd, but Tim is right. Right now, I'm scheduling everything for the month of January with a snow date.
So,
I know, you don't want to hear it.
So what I'm hearing is the board would like some time to consider this
Yeah. After the public hearing.
after the public hearing.
Correct.
All right. First things first. Let's get through the application process. Is it complete? We have a motion that it is. We have a second that it is. Is there any more discussion on whether or not this application is complete?
there was a checklist somewhere. And is that,
You have no checklist for
okay,
conditional
I didn't
uses.
think so, but
Yeah.
there was one,
For site plan review, there's a checklist application process. but
in one
there's
of
nothing-
these things though, there.
If you look at the conditional uses in Article 4, there's a list in the narrative of what needs to be submitted.
But one of the things was, a letter of credit or something, one of those items. Where did I see that?
That's probably in the subdivision.
No, it was in
I've got it.
some of
You wanna
these.
What
see
is it?
The conditional uses?
No, we don't, but
I think that was due
I don't know. I guess maybe I'm wrong.
What-
I've read
what were
so
you-
many things in the past couple of weeks about my mind
Okay.
Was it in your letter?
to, yeah, I think it was.
Specific requirements. Safe and adequate access to road systems of the town, provide safe and adequate means of water supply, wastewater disposal and solid waste disposal is capable of being reasonably served by schools, public utilities, public safety agencies and other public agencies and services, provide an adequate and permanent natural buffer and artificial screening between itself and adjacent properties, being used in alternative ways permitted by the ordinance, will not result in damage, which is suitable to the nature of the undertaking, has taken reasonable steps. Those are more of what would go into the findings of fact. There,
No, it's,
On Lucas Road.
there was, maybe I just was in something else that I shouldn't have been reading.
yeah, because that's the specific requirements of the findings of fact, and after that, you jump into extraction operations within the conditional use.
Yeah,
There's-
no, it
there's-
wasn't in that, it was, I don't know.
What would, do you remember what it pertained to, generally speaking?
It was a checklist.
For site plan review, subdivision?
I don't know, it was in some of this material that I read. Maybe
I
it,
don't remember seeing
maybe
it.
it was, I don't know, never mind.
No, I don't think it was a checklist as much as it was, we got
I
a
meant to
list.
ask about it, because I didn't think we had one for,
It's not that one.
oh, yeah, it was. Was that in the zoning ordinance?
No, it is
Oh, okay.
All right, we
Okay.
found it.
I'm not crazy.
All right.
Item submitted.
That's under site plan review, I believe.
That's an old one,
Yeah.
when we were doing site plan
All right,
review.
so
I'm
that
sorry.
does,
Yeah, let's just see.
You put that in there, don't confuse me. That's not allowed.
Because we were initially seen, after going through the ordinance, that this would be a site plan, but Lee J pointed out that it's not. And it was already there, so
all right.
You left it.
there's the.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not crazy, but I'm what I am, I
All right,
think, for
members, so, one last chance, you were saying.
I just wanted to let you know, Mr. Chairman, that we have no objection. All the work, notwithstanding any comments from the board or from the members of the public, we're essentially done. So the reason I bring that up is that we're on a roll and we want to keep going. So as far as the 30 days is concerned, we have no problem from our perspective. I guess waiving it from our perspective or asking you that it's not a problem with us to waive it. We'll be here on the 17th for the public hearing, obviously. And then for whatever meetings come thereafter, we can certainly keep this ball rolling as quickly as we can, predominantly because right now nothing's happening. We're in the middle of winter while we're going
you
up
can't
there.
dig out there anyway.
As soon as the springtime rolls around, we'd like to be, our windows of opportunity for construction are fairly short in springtime and the autumn. The point being is that 30 days is not a big deal. We'll keep on going January, February, whatever.
Okay, thank you. All right, board members, what's on the desk is this application complete? We have a motion
Yes.
and a second, yes. All in favor? Motion carries. At this time, would the board like to set a date for a public hearing?
Yeah,
Yeah, the next available meeting,
You want to do
consistent with
next available?
February
well,
17th.
necessary notice.
because
All right, a motion.
For the 17th.
Yep, we have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
There we go. Any discussion? All in favor?
Do we need to have a snow date?
The snow date.
with a snow date of,
February 3rd, or the next event, the next schedule?
Next meeting.
well, that would be on
In this
notifications.
situation, you can meet more than twice a month. You do have that option. In this situation, I would recommend you select the following Wednesday
Which
for a
means-
snow day.
Is
All
that
right,
clear on the
the
calendar?
31st.
No, the
Yes, in your
24th.
bylaws, you
So
can
the
call special
24th
meeting. The chairman can call.
I understand that, but in terms of other conflicting uses of the room.
Oh,
It'll be fine. I
Okay.
will fix it.
Okay. So, let me see.
Okay,
So
yeah.
we're gonna need a motion.
Yeah.
Do we need to retract these motions?
Yes,
Retract your motion, please.
retract your
Your
second.
second? You could, oh, Judy.
Yes, I will.
Retract.
All right, we need a motion that we'll have a public hearing on the 17th with a snow date of the 31st, both in January.
At first.
And a second? All right, David. Discussion. All in favor?
Your eyes are getting a little wild.
Motion carries. All right. Takes care of that. We're good.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. So,
Thank
board.
you, planning board, for not making it next meeting. I couldn't do it.
All right, board members, we're gonna move on. Oh, I'm sorry.
You still have stuff you need.
Let's give it a minute for the room to clear.
What was the date?
And 17th and the 31st. 17th is the next.
Oh, January.
I think it was 20, 20 the following week. Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, Dwayne wasn't sure if the next week was the 31st.
Get a bunch of copies.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
have a lot to
Are we on a 5-minute break?
we'll take a short break, 5 minutes.
All right.
He needs a cigarette.
Yeah, we'll leave it.
Owned our
Second one,
farm.
but whichever one.
Stash this stuff for me, please.
Just as a,
I know.
What are the kinds of
Oh, you talking about the
I don't know
project?
what else he had.
So I just seem to have lost my.
Rob Kennett, he was from,
I wrote my questions.
high school is Kennett.
Any wild peacocks in the world when I worked there. And they'd be, and I love them because they sound like somebody's dying. They sound like someone's being.
How come we only got?
Yes, they do.
But they eat the snakes. There you go.